Thanks for coming in, Troy.
Glad to be here. I'm really glad. Been looking forward to this for a while.
Great. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm glad we had some time to do this. But I wanted to start. Where are you right now in your career, your business career? What are you doing right now? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for the last 6 years, I've owned a consulting practice called Kiwi Restaurant Partners. And October a year ago, a brand called Pepper Lunch Restaurants came knocking, and they needed help building their infrastructure and setting up the franchise corporation and being connected with all of the resources that are needed to build that kind of operation. And in that conversation, it was sort of realized that we could provide all of those services outsourced to them. And so initially they engaged us, and we started the process of doing what we do, which is helping them build that team and bringing all of our vendors and resources and tools to the table. And early on in that process, they came to me and said, we'd like you to be the CEO of the North American holding company and help us export all this knowledge and experience and all of these systems and processes to the rest of the enterprise, because the brand was bought 3 years ago by a large private equity firm in Japan. And so they've spent the last couple of years really analyzing and trying to understand what the brand was and what its opportunity was for growth around the world. And when they realized that we really had the formula, we had the roadmap, we knew how to do this, they realized they really wanted to amend and adopt many of these things to the rest of the enterprise around the world. This is no small group. We usually work with groups under 30 restaurants to help them organize their business, refine their business, build their prototypes, get them ready for either franchising or corporate growth. And this brand already had 463 restaurants.
Wow.
And we like to say they're the largest restaurant startup you've never heard of, right? Yeah. And so they've been around for 30 years, and so there's a lot of legacy, a lot of history. But
those 460, where are those located primarily?
Yeah, so they started in Tokyo, Japan, and we own 60 corporate stores in Japan with 140 franchisees in Japan, so 200 stores in Japan. And then we had our first and largest franchisee was our master franchisee in Singapore. Actually, it was Suntory Liquor Company, who owns a food and beverage business as well. They have a number of restaurants around the world for a very long time, and they were our first franchisee. So they grew all of APAC, all of Asia for us. And when they asked me to start as CEO, they also purchased that business back. They purchased the Suntory's food and beverage business, and that gave us another 60 corporate stores, and the entire remainder of the franchise infrastructure around the world came under one umbrella again. Okay. And so I'm part of a 5-person team, 3 CEOs, a COO, and a CFO, who make up the executive branch, the ExCo, we call it, executive committee. And we run the brand worldwide. And so we all have our areas of responsibility regionally, but then we cross-pollinate and grow. So I still have a consulting practice that my partner Mark runs, and we have a couple of clients besides Pepper Lunch there. But my partner Mark's working heavily on the Pepper Lunch project, and I'm contracted, and I'm CEO of the holding company in North America and co-CEO of the brand worldwide. And we grow about 5 stores a month organically.
Great.
And we're really focused on a massive growth projection for the U.S.
Nice. Is that taking up 100% of your time right now?
I would put a few extra zeros behind the 100. It's 1,100%. Right now, it is my sole focus for sure.
Okay, great. How many stores currently in the U.S.?
Yeah, so we have 7 North American stores, 6 official U.S. stores. One of those is in the territory of Guam, and they've recently signed a lease for another store. And then we have 5 stores in the U.S. across 3 states, California, Nevada in Las Vegas, and Houston, Texas. And that's one franchisee. That's our first franchisee that opened the market in the U.S. They've been here for up to 5.5 years.
Okay.
And so good proof of market for us. It's shown that it's ready to go.
Great. Where do you see the growth in the U.S. too? Where are you looking?
Everywhere. Yeah. So we announced Arizona. Our first multi-unit deal was in Arizona at the end of September.
Where in Arizona too?
They have the whole state.
Okay.
They're going to open 3 stores in the next 20 months in Phoenix area.
Okay.
Announcements coming soon about specific sites. We're nailing that down. We've sold another couple states we haven't announced yet. Some final paperwork, and but they're done deals. We just need to get the PR and everything ready to make big announcements. But we're going to end the year with between 50 and 60 units to about 6 franchise partners.
Awesome.
So we're doing only large multi-unit deals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's where you're currently. So let's back up a bit. How did you get into the restaurant industry? And tell us a little, just your background. Where you were born and raised?
Yeah. Born in Nashville, Tennessee. I spent 4 whole days there of my life. My father's second generation from Miami. So we moved back to Miami. It was a temporary thing in Nashville. So I grew up most of my life in Miami until I was 27, 28 years old. So I consider myself third generation Miamian, even though officially I was born in Nashville. But yeah, I grew up in the Coral Gables area of Miami in the 70s and 80s, which was an interesting, exciting, and fun time. A lot of things going on, great football. But I was really born into this business. A couple things. My dad really loved entertaining and partying and having fun. He owned construction companies, basically owned one company with 3 divisions that did different disciplines of construction. And in one of them was that he built bars, restaurants, and nightclubs, or he renovated, or he remodeled, or whatever. And so I spent most of my life, all of my childhood, on construction sites. I mean, he worked 6 days a week, and so every Saturday and certainly many days after school. And as soon as I was physically able to contribute in some way, hand tools, carry buckets, start painting, I did all of it. But, I grew up, when you're in that environment, you inherently, and you're curious, you look into everything, right? Like, oh, well, what's a walk-in, and what's, what is stubbing gas lines and all this kind of thing. So I grew up in that space, and then he also loved to throw parties. So I actually think he built these things so he would have VIP access to the space, so he could just throw parties.
Cool.
So we grew up hosting a lot. So I grew up with a mindset of hospitality, right? I love making what now you might call a charcuterie grazing board. Back then was just rolled up ham and cheese, right? But I love making the platters and baking the pies and doing all the things he loved to do. So I grew up with a very strong sense of hospitality and hosting and being the conduit of a good time.
Okay.
So that was the impetus for my interest in hospitality.
Okay. So you didn't want to do the construction route, though. You wanted to get more.
He handed me the company, and I sold every asset except for the tools that I kept for myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
He retired, and he said, here's the trucks, here's the things. And I said, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
Whether that was the right decision in life, I'm doing okay. But, certainly there was some legacy there. I come up from a family of entrepreneurs. So it made sense to probably pursue something like that. But I was just so over construction, and, you grew up on it. You just had enough.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. You mentioned you come from a family of entrepreneurs. When you say that, so do I, and I think that's why I'm on my own too.
Right.
And so your father, anybody else in your family?
My grandfather was a master plumber, owned his own plumbing company. All my father's siblings were entrepreneurs in different fields.
Yep.
One of them was a professional financial planner for the last 40 years.
Okay.
They all just had their own firm, business, shop, whatever, right?
Yep.
I actually thought of this the other day. I'm not sure I know anybody in my family that actually had a job. Like, I can't think of anybody who works for somebody else. I have a first cousin who's very high up in the Hollywood, Florida fire department. So I guess you call that a job. He had a career. But besides that, they've all been entrepreneurs. It's very crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely, I can tell there's generational aspect to it, and you're born into it. It's hard to come from a family that's worked for somebody else and then go out on your own. And it's funny, the mindset. I just was talking with somebody yesterday. He couldn't hold a job for, I think the longest he held a job for was 2 years. And he's been fired, I think, from every job he's held. And he's got his own company. He's making millions of dollars a year right now. Yeah. And, but it's that mindset. Yeah. And you almost can't work for somebody like that.
It's hard. It is hard. Yeah. I mean, for me, I worked for other people for a long time, but I actually always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I understood that I needed to build some foundational skills and some professionalism and see how other people did things to sort of find your formation.
Yeah. So, schooling, how did you do in schooling? Did you like school?
I hated school until I got out of high school. It's funny. I hated school And I've been told many times by counselors and things, it's because I wasn't challenged. The public school system wasn't challenging me. I'm not trying to say I'm too smart or whatever, but it turns out that I'm a lifelong learner and that I want to learn much faster than traditional education offered me the opportunity to learn. So as soon as I got out of high school, which I graduated a year early, they kept skipping me grades because I was bored and not performing. And they said, oh, well, he could, So when I got out of school, I did some vocation. So I went to culinary school at 17. And at 18, I went to maritime school I wanted to be a captain.
Cool.
And you know a little bit about me in that regard. And from 17 to probably 36 around, I always sort of had two parallel careers or interest tracks. And when I say that, I was like, when I did a hobby, I did it really hard and really deep, right? Or I did another thing, I really mastered it. So I kind of just always need that other thing that is balances, the effort and both sides of the brain.
Right. Huh, that's funny. I've got that too. And I always have to have something on the side that I'm working on too.
Right.
Side hustle, something going on.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's cool. So, so you went to, you had culinary school, it's maritime school.
And I did both. I cooked for 6 years while I finished college. I knew that I knew.
Where did you go to college?
I went to University of Miami for a little while, and then that was very expensive, and I was on my own. So then I graduated from FIU, Florida International University, with a business degree. And I knew that I needed, because I was really interested in business, and I knew I needed it to be an entrepreneur and be successful, it was enough of a driver to stay engaged and do well. But man, like the prerequisites, like I just... Oh, struggled. It's whatever I had to do to get by, I got by.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got in those business classes and started understanding economics and spreadsheets and what a P&L was and, HR and these kinds of elements, boy, that really grabbed me. I was really into that. And so immediately I wanted to lead teams. I wanted to have employees. I was like, I'm a manager. I want to have employees. And so I got very lucky. I took a sidetrack. I was recruited in college by Procter Gamble. It turns out, I caught the eye in some social interactions with the number one salesperson in all of Procter Gamble, who lived in Tampa, Florida, and she recruited me, and she made it really easy, and I made it really hard on her. It finally came down to I went to a conference to check out what the role would require. It was a sales-related role, and she just took me aside to a high table and wrote on the back of a napkin what the offer might look like, and all of my hemming and hawing about getting out of hospitality went away very quickly. So I worked for Procter & Gamble for 5.5 years.
Okay.
And that was better than any college, any life experience. It was transformational. Okay. They overinvest in the human. Yeah. They really give you every skill from basic leadership to R&D and science, and they really stretch all of your brain to understand everything that they do. And the biggest thing about Procter & Gamble is they tell you why for everything. And I'm a why guy. I don't understand it. Why do we do that? Why does that work that way? And so that was that grew my brain more than anything. It really opened all of the synapses, really. And from there, I was off to the races. Cool. I was ready.
And that was in Florida? Did you stay in Florida?
I did. I lived in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, all over. Bounced around, but did it. It was a national job. I traveled almost full time. Okay. I did a lot of conferences and speaking, and I was in charge of the dynamic presentations. Basically, they wanted to take really boring, and you're used to this in the law world, right? Really boring nutritional science or medical science and translate it into actionable intelligence that led to a sale, right? They had a product or a piece of equipment or a drug, and they did is they came to groups of salespeople and said, we know this is boring stuff, and we know that people are going to fall asleep if Dr. So-and-so just drones on for an hour. How can we take that and mix you guys? How can we do a Cirque du Soleil of this kind of thing? Like, how can we make this interesting? So we did a lot of fun stuff. Cool. We threw big parties. And by the way, this is in the 90s, so there was an unlimited fund of if you wanted fireworks, you got fireworks. You wanted dancers, you got dancers. Whatever kept people awake and engaged in the data. But I had that little stint there that really put me in a position to understand how to lead groups and how to meet goals and strategize long-term plans and all that
Cool,
kind of fun
cool.
stuff. Yeah.
You mentioned this maritime. Did you get back to the maritime?
I always was on a boat. If I
Okay.
was not
So when you were
working, I was
you had
on
the
a boat.
side job then?
I did what we call cash captaining. So in South Florida, there's a lot of crew and captains, and there's a lot of boats sitting idle. And so through social networks, it all started actually with my first serious girlfriend's dad was a physician. He had a 72-foot sportfish boat, and he could not manage it alone.
Okay.
It's too big for one man.
Yeah.
He had his mechanic, he had his boat washer, he had all the stuff he needed, but he couldn't take the boat out. And honestly, he didn't have a big social network. So, finding 2 or 3 friends was hard to get schedules coordinated. And so he latched onto me as a very young man and said, "What do you want to be?" And I want to be a chef, and I want to own my own restaurant. And he says, "But you love boats. You're always about my boat." And I said, "Yeah, I love boats. And yeah, I'd love to be a captain. That'd be great." And so he paid for me to go to maritime school, and he gave me his boat as a training vessel. And he took me out and he showed me all the physical things that school can't teach you, and ultimately gave me control of the boat. And then I got to start using the boat, and boy, hook was in. Now I got a 72-foot sportfish. And then he introduced me to friends. He was aging, and he had a lot of friends in the late 60s to early 80s, and they all had boats. And same thing, they used the boats very infrequently. So to pay for a full-time captain or have somebody on call, it was just easier to find somebody who was competent to chauffeur the boat around or do things. So I did that. I ended up keeping 3 to 5 clients, and I'd probably do 30, 40 day trips or weekend trips a year, that kind of a thing. But in my role, I had complete flexibility at Procter. This is while I was at Procter Gamble. I had complete flexibility. It's outside sales, outside, not in an office every day. And so literally you could call me on Tuesday and say, "Hey, can you take us out for lunch tomorrow on the boat?"
Cool.
Sure.
That's cool.
And for those that don't know, in South Florida, it's a little different than other places. There's a highway called the Intercoastal Waterway, and you can take your boat from behind your house and drive it for 20 minutes and pull it up to a restaurant.
Cool.
And park it and go in for lunch and then go back to your house. Yeah. So we did a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then you had a high profile client too at that, right?
I did. So after the Procter & Gamble thing, about almost 6 years in, I kind of burnt out. They actually gave me an opportunity to have a VP role that would require me to move from Miami, Florida, with an unlimited credit card, traveling the world on their dime. And I set the tone for a reason, to Cincinnati, Ohio, to a big glass building, wearing a blue suit and a white shirt and a blue tie. That was the most terrifying thing that ever came in front of me. Because I saw that in my mind, if I had done that, if I had taken that role and moved to Cincinnati, that would have been it. Yeah. I would have done 30 years, and
That's it.
the exciting life was over, right? And as a young man, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, the boats and the girls and the money and what? No way. So I quit. Really just quit. And it was a great experience, actually. I was asked to help with the transition, and they gave me 6 months of my benefits. They gave me a going away package. It was fantastic. But I took some time off. I said to my dad and my family, "Man, I'm just burnt out. I'm burning both things for a long time as a young man. I've got money in the bank. I can do anything I want. I don't know what I want to do. I just got to rest." And so I took a few months off. I moved up to the North Georgia mountains for a little while to kind of clear my head, spend some time with my family that had moved there when my dad retired. And then, of course, got itchy. And most of my life follows the following path up until my wife. Why did you move from here to there? Why did you take this job to that job? Why did you do this? I met a girl. And so I met a girl, and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for a little while, got involved as a partner in a large dive travel, scuba diving training center and dive travel business. That started putting me out into the Caribbean and around the world, having a good time for 2 years. And I met a girl, and she said, "Come on, let's go to the Caribbean. Let's go live the boat life in the Caribbean." And so I moved to a little island called sight unseen. Never saw the place, never been to the place. Literally packed 2 bags, moved to Saba in the Central Caribbean, the Lesser Antilles. It's just next to St. Bart's. I could see St. Bart's, St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat, Martinique, all from my house. I moved there just to rest, relax, and go have some fun. And lo and behold, every winter, the biggest yachts in the world come to St. Martin, and they tool around the French islands and the Dutch islands, and I had this history as being a captain, and so I said, well, what'd be fun is, and she also happened to be a captain, and I said, be fun. Why don't we get on a boat and do some seasonal work? They're only there 3 months a year, 4 months a year. Let's get on a boat and do some seasonal work. We can go work for 2 or 3 months and make a lot of money and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, got very lucky, and I ended up over 3 years ended up working on 2 boats seasonally, so it filled both sides of the season. And I worked for Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft and eventual owner of everything sports in Seattle.
Yeah.
He owned at the time the 10th largest yacht in the world, Octopus.
Okay.
And I had 2 roles on that boat. I was the assistant. As certified as I was, and all my history in scuba diving since I was 9 years old, I was actually the assistant to the head dive master. Okay. And but I also was appointed navigator. And so, by the way, it's a 410-foot boat. It looks like a cruise ship. It's like a miniature cruise ship. Yeah. And it has a lot of fun toys on it. And so I did 3 seasons, winter seasons with them.
It's got a submarine too, right?
Has a 10-man submarine, a 60-foot yacht, 2 helicopters.
That's cool.
The back of the boat opens and actually floods the back, so the boat and the submarine can float in and out. Pretty ridiculous experience.
Did your culinary background?
Zero. No, I appreciated the food. Yeah. It was amazing.
Okay.
But, that was the one weird thing I actually only thought of in the last couple of years is I think that I realized doing 5 or 6 years of cooking through school that I really enjoyed hospitality. I really enjoyed the business of it. I was really intrigued by that. I really enjoyed cooking for other people. I didn't like doing it under other people. Like, I didn't like being the underling to the screaming chef. Okay. And literally, if you think of it, I saw it. Throwing pans at people, cussing at people, firing people on the spot, the whole thing. Okay. Right? Storming out. I saw all of it. And that really turned me off. And so it's really funny when I was in the yachting space, I was a little surprised that I never wanted to even go in the kitchen. I was soured to the idea of commercial cooking or professional cooking.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool story. So, and then from being a captain, how did you get into
well, I got bored. That little island's really little I was living on, by the way. That relationship after a couple, 3 years was wasn't seeing its future for very long. And actually, she had a relationship, and that the phone rang and said, hey, this big developer has bought a bunch of land in Bimini, Bahamas, is going to build the largest resort in the Bahamas, the biggest marina, and they want to start up their own amenities. They want to own the scuba snorkeling, the touring company. They want to do educational tours, cultural tours. We need somebody to come entrepreneur that. We need somebody to come own that space and help us design that and stand up that business. And so they called and we went there together. And now I find out later that she had a plan of dropping me off. So she basically dropped me off because only about a month or 2 later she left, which was fine. So I ended up with this gig at what now is Resorts World Bimini. It's where the Virgin cruise ship docks as their party island. Cool. And I ended up there when it was rocks and sand and a couple of buildings. Wow. And I ended up building the all those amenities, all those businesses, all the little huts and shacks, and hiring the employees and buying the boats and setting all that up, setting up all the here's what you can do today kind of stuff. And that stuck me back into hospitality, which was really wonderful. And from there, I met my now wife and went to work for Vail Resorts in Hilton and got to build new restaurants for them in Breckenridge, Colorado. Do some new profit centers, hire new teams, reconceptualize restaurants. And that's what got me back into hotels and restaurants.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then how'd you get to LA eventually?
She's from Westlake Village, Moorpark. And when we started talking about having a family eventually, her whole family is here. She's 4th or 5th generation Californian. She goes back way far. Her family has an avocado lemon ranch in Santa Paula. So she wanted to be close to family. Cool. And I was living in Breckenridge, Colorado. So I moved from Bimini, Bahamas to Breckenridge, Colorado after a number of years in the Caribbean. I was perfectly happy to get out of the snow
Yeah.
and the altitude, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm a below sea level kind of guy.
Breckenridge isn't that bad though, too.
It's 9,200 feet in this town. I lived at almost 11,000 feet.
Yeah.
I could hardly breathe for years. So we just packed up and moved. We were going to avoid the next winter, and we packed up and moved. We both got gigs. I started my consulting practice.
Cool.
And I picked up a gig helping a very high profile private club in Orange County sort of modernize its food and beverage business and be in leadership there, and that parlayed to several management gigs.
Okay.
So I started my management company where we started managing hotels, resorts, private clubs, golf clubs,
Okay.
and that's how Kiwi Restaurants was born. KRP was born as a division of my hospitality management company.
Okay.
So we did turnaround, what we called turnaround management, really distressed or failing or outdated assets that a new owner or existing owner wanted to elevate or wanted to market for sale and had to improve the business to do that, or a new owner that just wanted to take something sort of outdated and redo the whole thing. And so me and my team that I built here in California would then go into these and do an 18 to 24 month turnaround where we took complete management control of the asset. And we ended up having a very, very good business with that. A number of clients across hotels, resorts,
Is that what
clubs.
Kiwi's still doing now?
So I sunsetted that once I realized the restaurant business had so much opportunity. This is about 6.5 years ago. My partner, Mark Bailey, was, I knew him, and he was having a hell of a lot of fun. I was watching him do it as a one-man shop, being that best friend to the founder and showing them the way and lighting the path and bringing all the resources to the table. And I said to him, hey, this management thing's really exhausting. Like, it's a lot of work to go into a toxic environment, undercapitalized, understaffed, and build up a real business. And that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of work, and it has a cap on its value. Like, you can only charge so much to do that. And it's just not scalable. Like, by doing many clients at once, it's very hard to scale that business because it's so intense. And so I saw what he was doing with restaurants. So I was like, whoa, that's fast paced. That's fairly short term time spent with them. It's, it's still a year, maybe 18 months. But you could do multiple brands at a time if you had some help. I said, why don't you and I join forces, and we'll go get some additional people like us, and then we'll get some support staff and some specialists that do unique, culinary specialists and technology specialists, marketing specialists. And we could build a full sort of suite here and provide an all-in-one, one-stop shop solution to group founders and small groups and private equity funds that made investments, venture capital investors. We could provide this service to them. It's an all-in-one package. We can help take a 3 or a 5 or a 10 unit brand. We can refine it, build the strategy, paint the picture of what this brand could be long term, whether is this a regional brand, half the country, the whole country, is this something we export, et cetera. And that seemed really exciting.
Okay.
And so I said, why don't we start the restaurant division as a division? We won't let go of the management thing just yet. And boy, that took off pretty quick. And because it did, I said, well, let's just not take any more of these. Let's just ride these out and sunset that. So the company exists. It's there. I get asked every now and then. I do a little consulting under that banner.
Okay.
I still have a hotel group that once a year asks me to review their P&L and give suggestions of areas they could make some improvements or whatever. But mostly we turned our face towards this emerging QSR, fast casual, mostly focused emerging brand scaling practice, where we really provide an outsourced C-suite is what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you charge a fee for that, or do you equity stake?
It's so we started as a fee for service, project based, right? We look at the scope of the project and outline what time and money we thought it would take to accomplish those goals. We have gone to a mixed model with taking some small equity. And breaking news, you've heard me say this in social settings or in professional settings, we are moving towards an all equity model. So ultimately we are sort of modeling ourselves as a boutique private equity style fund organization. So we are going to raise some capital to deploy as growth capital. We are going to use that team to deploy them into these acquisitions, which may be investments and minority positions, maybe 51% majority
Okay.
positions, and maybe 85, 90%. We want to keep founders involved. We want to keep founders monetized and motivated, because we're really looking at concepts and ideas that could be something really special, but the special sauce started with that founder's idea or that thing they do really well, whether they're really good at brand or they're really good at culinary or they're really good at logistics. Some are just really great logistics people. So, so we're moving forward. That is the goal for KRP. Yeah.
Now on that front, for like a founder or somebody thinking about starting their own brand, becoming an operator on their own, what areas are hot right now? What are you looking to, or where do you think the trend's going in the hospitality industry?
Yeah, and this is not an infomercial for Pepper Lunch, but the reason we chose to engage and participate and get so deeply involved with Pepper Lunch is it actually ticked off several of the boxes I'm gonna label here. Number one is Gen Z and younger. We've all talked about having a social cause. But it's really less about that you plant your flag with a social cause. It's more about authenticity. If authentically you're aligned with a social cause or a movement or an investment in clean water or organic farming or whatever that is, great. Don't do that as a gimmick.
Yeah.
That's not your marketing play. Yeah. So authenticity is really important. Pepper Lunch was born in Japan by a master chef in Japan. Super authentic. The recipes haven't changed in 30 years. So authenticity is really important. So when you think about brands, ask yourself, who really is a very authentic brand? What if I create an idea, what is it I'm doing that? Why am I doing that? Who am I doing that for? What am I trying to solve? Who am I trying to serve? Do they really need it? So authenticity is number one. I'm really hot on experiential. It's got to have some kind of authentic experience or tie back to, if you're going to do a Portuguese restaurant, what is it that's in Portugal that is experiential? Well, one dish is you set sausage on fire and it cooks in this casserole dish at the table, right? It's got to have some kind of entertainment aspect to it, or some kind of brand connectivity point, some interactiveness to the brand. That could be fully digital. It could be in Web3, but there's got to be some sort of activity beyond a transaction of order and eat, right? Simplicity. When you see things like Dave's Hot Chicken and Raising Cane's, and that whole genre and category, these guys are serving 3 to 5 menu items total. Simplicity in operation, simplicity in product, easy to understand who you are and what you offer, and then just live and die by the fact that people either love it or don't. And that's okay. You just want to maximize the people that love it and make them come back more often and have loyal customers that you have a good relationship with. So these are themes that, if you're thinking of creating a concept, most people start with a recipe or their culture or, a delivery model or a service model. That's great, but that's not a brand. And that's not a recipe for success. You've got to surround it with these elements that people care about.
Yeah. Interesting you bringing up Web3. I've been interested in that. Yeah, it's been, 2 years now, a year and a half. And we're in a winter on that right now. But I'm hearing people talk about it more and more the last just month or two. Do you think there's a play on that still? Where do you see it?
As soon as Ready Player 2, the movie, comes out, we'll be off to the races. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Fits and starts. I think the pandemic both accelerated lots of areas of thought there, but also paused investment and paused people's ability to engage. A lot of people have played. It's very early on. I mean, we are in the transition from horses to cars, right? We are in the transition from radio to TV. And as fast as technology moves, adoption does not always move as fast as certainly technology can provide itself. And so I do know for a fact we are going there, right? Blockchain is real. It's happening. AI is real. It's happening. People are interacting in digital realms more and more every day. People of our genre of age aren't as aware of or as involved in, but there are very, very large companies being built. I'll give an example. In Asia, there's a company called Webtoon. And Webtoon, if you imagine Netflix was bigger than Apple, Google, and Microsoft put together, Webtoon's getting there in their distribution business. They're taking individual people's IP, the creators are creating anime or manga or videos or songs or music, things of this nature. They're taking all this media and they can upload it to this product called Webtoons, and it's a distribution channel. Webtoons sees what of those IPs are getting most interactivity and then buys them or invests in them or accelerates them, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like the Netflix model, but on steroids. Well, in Asia, there's a lot more human beings. And so these things scale much quicker and much bigger. And now this is a platform that something into the tune of 2 billion views a day are happening across multiple countries. It's just opened up in the United States. This is a digital realm people are spending a lot of time in. It's the TikTokification of interactivity. You can view anime comics like a TikTok feed. Okay. And so the next generations are living in these environments. And so the question is how can a brand authentically engage? We are actively pursuing and investigating how could we authentically align with some of this IP? How could Pepper Lunch or any other brand, but specifically because Pepper Lunch is an Asian brand, how could Pepper Lunch insert itself into some of these IP storylines so that it is authentically piece of it? Look, the reality is the people writing these things and animating these things are eating at Pepper Lunch. Yeah. Right? We're in every Asian nation almost. And so there's an awareness and a ubiquitous awareness of this brand. Why wouldn't we show up in the places that our customers and future customers are spending their time? Yeah. And why wouldn't be an authentic participant in that environment? So I just want to see these characters go to Pepper Lunch for, a gathering before they take on the villain. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's all I want to see.
So with Pepper Lunch specifically as an example, are you actively reaching out to those influencers then?
Oh, no, not yet. So we are engaging with the platforms. Okay. We're saying, okay, TikTok, tell us, how do we live in TikTok? Okay. If we're going to do TikTok, we're going to do it right. What are all the tools? And most people don't realize that as organic as TikTok is, there's a whole business back end. Yeah. And there are business managers and there are advertising opportunities and other ways to interact with the platform. And so we're looking at things like TikTok, definitely Snapchat. 60% of Pepper Lunch's customers are under 35. 50% are under 30. Okay. And so we know Gen Z and then Gen Alpha coming up is the longevity of our brand. It is the investment we must make. So we must understand where they are and how they're communicating and how they're interacting.
Nice. I think that's the future. You've got to be on these social media platforms that we don't even know about yet.
Right. Right. And they grow so fast. Right. They either crash really fast or they crash really slow over a long period of time. Right. But people think like Snapchat is a platform that is in that slow, constant decline. It's weird. Snapchat has found its home in college age students, 18 to 22. By the time you're 24, you're probably not on Snapchat. Yeah. 16-year-olds, not so much really on Snapchat, but boy, you get 17, 18 years old, you go to college, Snapchat is the communication tool for all college campuses today. Yeah. And because so many college campuses are now heavily populated with Asian visa students, there's even more cross-pollination of cultures, and not just Asian, but Indian and South African and the European nations. So the globalization is very real because of the digital interactivity among people under 25. Okay. They live there. Yep. They're very used to talking to people across the world freely. Yep. And so you have the opportunity to export your brand, import brands, make fusions. Yep.
That's awesome.
Collabs. Yep. I think collaborations is a big thing. Yep. It's a big opportunity. I'm really excited about brand collaborations and co-branded activations within venues or pop-ups or festivals or airports I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Awesome. No, I could go on, but I'll move on. I want to be respectful of your time. But I think that's fascinating area. Bringing it back to California, and we'll start wrapping it up here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on California. We talked about this briefly before we started, but what are you seeing in California? What are you seeing for expansion here in California for operators? I know it's a difficult time with just the employment laws, the regulation, trying to build out a new restaurant. is becoming seemingly impossible here, and you're hearing about the flight from California. Are you seeing that? And what are your thoughts on the future of California?
Well, let's take it back a year. When the FAST Act was introduced, I quickly started getting on the phone with my contemporaries, other C-suite CEOs and leaders in the industry, especially at the larger brands that would be impacted immediately. And in many of the medium size, I'd say that 30 to 100 unit growing emerging brands, regional brands, we would refer to them as. And I started asking them, what is your plan? What are you doing? It was a 100% unanimous vote. We are not pursuing growth in California until this solves itself. FAST Act was put up for referendum. I think people forgot about it for a minute. We started seeing franchise sales and new store and corporate store openings again. But certainly people pulled way back. They said they weren't going to do anything. They pulled way back. They paused projects that weren't already far enough along that they were committed. There's definitely a big pumping of the brakes. Then when AB 1228 came out and was threatening and was certainly passing, and that was the co-employment threat, again, not only did they stop, they kind of said, well, now this is too much.
Yeah.
Now you're showing us, California, that you're just going to keep picking away at this. You're not going to wait for the respect of the vote of the people on the FAST Act. You're just going to keep rewriting the FAST Act into different iterations until you sneak one through. And once that precedent's set, So it really has tainted the market. There are many brands that are so ingrained already, they have no choice.
Yeah.
I will tell you, without any hyperbole, I had a deal on the table to be a multi-unit franchisee of a brand that does not exist in California. I talked them into letting me do California, and they had no plans for California. And they have 2 brands now. And it was going to be a 20-store deal. I was going to ultimately, over 10 years, employ 1,200 employees and generate $100 million a year in gross economic generation in Southern California with these expansion of this brand. And they pulled the plug on me. They said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
They were only convinced because of our robust experience in California, our history and proof of doing good business in the restaurant space, and having a really great team that they believed in. But they're not from here, and they're like, no, thank you, California, because it's just not worth it. So what I want to say to everyone in California, especially voters and especially legislators, is there is a breaking point where I believe we're at it. Despite the population flux, when we talk about business, what you don't see the impact is what doesn't happen. Everybody talks about, well, restaurants are going to close and employees are going to lose jobs. There's going to be less employees. Some of that's true, but it's not. I don't believe that's going to be at a scale that's going to be overwhelming to the legislature to reverse, or the voters to reverse. But what they don't see is the economic growth that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
The jobs that aren't created, the businesses that aren't built, the brands that just will never come here. The old adage of, well, it's the 5th largest economy in the world, it's the largest economy in the United States, it's worth it, right? The upside is worth the hassle is starting to be something that is not true. That statement is now closer to neutral than it is true.
Right.
And it's moving towards false. People are not getting to a point where they're not willing to put up with or take the threat of all of the regulation, but the costs and the liability and the potential litigation and the fear, the living in fear when you own a business that you really, it's not yours. Right. You're sort of beholden to other entities that can control what your capabilities and upside are.
Right.
And that's become a real threat.
And I agree. I think your point, if you're existing, you're entrenched here in California, you're not just going to pick up and leave. Right. But you're seeing a slow trickle out, and it's just going to happen over time unless something reverses. Main example I use too is SpaceX. Here in Southern California, it is the hub for aerospace exploration, new technology, Mojave Desert, Edwards Air Force Base, and now they're in Texas. And a number of jobs. one company at a time. It's not devastating, and but over time, 10 years, this keeps going on. And I think we're going to see a spiral. It's going to start spiraling quickly.
Yeah.
More and more leave. SpaceX leaves, less people there in Hawthorne to go to the restaurants. The restaurants start closing, and it's going to start spiraling.
Yeah, only because you and I are so connected in our community and the industry here, we see it much more than most do. But I know multiple multi-unit operators, people who own 10, 20, 30 restaurants. All of their California stores are for sale quietly. They're not picking up franchise. They're getting into new franchise brands in new states.
Yeah.
They're relocating their businesses.
But with that said, and I talked to my wife about this too. She mentioned all of our friends are leaving the state, but their houses aren't sitting empty though.
Right.
People are filling in.
No, I don't think the population flux is the way to measure it. As many people that move out, more people still move in.
Right.
Got it, right? The California dream or whatever.
Right.
The economy's big. It's look at Japan. Lots of Asian and non-American companies and brands see the massive economic opportunity that is. But I think more importantly, it is those businesses that don't get built. It is those empty commercial spaces. It is empty office buildings. If you calculate and add that up, you can't ignore the trend towards
I think
slowing growth or stunting the growth of the economy.
And if you're here, you're operating, you've got your stores here, you keep running, but it's just where else is the opportunity? And now it's a lot easier to make that decision to be like, how about Tennessee or Texas?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So, So with that, let me leave on a good note.
Yeah.
So for these entrepreneurs out there in the hospitality industry, what's your advice that you would give them to start? How do you get started, especially in this we might be getting into a tough economy right now. California, we've got a tough operating environment too. I've got one client, him and his business partner, he said 30 years ago, they started with a $100,000 loan from their parents and started a restaurant at a college and killed it.
Can't do that today.
Yeah. And it said on the flip side,
that's $1 million today.
Right. But so what do you recommend for somebody that's thinking about taking this step, being an entrepreneur like yourself?
Ask for help. Like get involved. We have, and I think Sean Walchef, a good friend of mine. He has a saying that his grandfather gave him that I just love and adore because it wraps it all up. Stay curious, get involved, and ask for help. Right. I do see too many people that try to slog this out on their own and make all the classic mistakes, cost themselves lots of money and lots of time. And maybe lose the passion, because they just had all this pride of, I know what to do and I'm going to do it. Get involved in the industry, and whatever industry you're in. But if you're in the restaurant industry, get involved in the local networking groups and roundtables online, and listen to the podcasts like this and many other great ones that are really focused in very niche areas. Get educated and ask for help. There's so many people like ourselves out there who have done it before you that are so willing to give you their advice. What can you do? Which way should you go? Should you franchise? When should you franchise? What does it cost? What am I? And I think most entrepreneurs underestimate time and dollars. They always underestimate how long something's going to take and how much it's going to cost, to a factor of multitudes, like 2-3x underestimate.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can engage in mentorship, engage in roundtables, engage in mastermind groups, engage in the associations and industries, whether it's you have a Chamber of Commerce that does a really great job, or the California Restaurant Association chapter, or the state, or whatever, or wherever you are, you got to get involved and ask others, how did they do it? What are they seeing? Is your idea, going down the right path? Is this something that people think is going to make sense and resonate? Just ask for help. I mean, there's just no reason to go it alone. And the failure rate is so high when all the things are in place, because so many other factors out there Be well capitalized, have twice as much money as you think you need. Be patient. It's going to take 2 to 3 times as long as you think it's going to take to do the thing you want to do. And there's going to be a lot of hurdles you don't see. Let somebody shine the light and give you the map to how to get there. Because there's a lot of people, whether you pay for it in a consultant like ourselves or mentorship, or you get somebody that you maybe give a piece of your company to. Hey, if I gave you 20% of this company, would you be my advisor? And would you bring your friends and vendors and introduce me to your lawyer and introduce me to your accountant? Will you help me solve all the problems before they're problems, right?
Yeah.
That's a path, right?
Yeah.
Having a strategic investor, a strategic advisor, board member, partner in the business is another way to solve that problem.
Yep. That's great. Well, thanks for coming in and doing this. Before we leave, though, where can people find more about Pepper Lunch and contact you?
Yeah, pepperlunchrestaurants.com, okay. Pepper Lunch Restaurants on LinkedIn, j.troyhooper on LinkedIn. But if you just sort of search Troy Hooper Kiwi, Troy Hooper Restaurants, Troy Hooper LinkedIn, you'll find me.
Awesome.
We do a fair bit of PR, and I do a fair bit
I see a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we do a lot of podcasts too.
That's
so
awesome.
because of that, I have a phrase that I'm weirdly accessible. I'm easy to find, and I'm easy to get a hold of, and I'm always excited to chat with entrepreneurs and talk to contemporaries and other folks in our industry about what they think and what's going on. I want to learn as much as I want to share what I've learned. So
cool. Awesome. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.